Hello, welcome to another episode of FreeCodeFriday. My name is Jason Bach, and today we're going to just get into it, unless I keep rambling like I did last time and never really showed anything. So I'm going to continue on with the WSharp compiler, and what I want to do this time is just get the concept of lines in place, have the execution engine working, hopefully write some tests. I might circumvent the tests for a little bit, because I want to see if I can actually get this working. I'm not sure if I can or not. It might take a couple episodes, so we'll see. Might not be able to get it all done this time. So let's just get started, get right into it. So the first thing I'm going to need is the concept of a line. And I was thinking about this over the past couple days, and I'm actually on vacation right now for like 11 days, which is awesome. So as I've been sitting around thinking, I got to get to this, but I want to relax. So, so I didn't get to it till today, which is literally Friday. Anyway, do I want to make everything here immutable by default? And people may say, yes, you do. But I started thinking of cases of how this is going to work. And I thought maybe, no, not always. So I think I've decided to at least try and make everything immutable by default, and we'll just see how far I can get it to go. Yeah. So the line is going to need the concept of a ulong, which is the count. It's also going to need an identifier. Should I make that a long? Are you really going to have 4 billion lines in a WSharp program? This is the beginning of a Y2K problem right here. Why now? Let's just make it a... And I like... People sometimes forget that there's unsigned values, or unsigned types in .NET, and then I see they put tests and they go, if it's less than 0, then throw an exception or something. And I'm like, why? If you don't want it to be less than 0, just use an unsigned long or an unsigned int. It's pretty straightforward. And then I need... okay, this is where I forgot to do something here. What I'm going to also need is a public interface of an execution engine actions. And I don't know what's going to be in there yet. Okay, come on, gimme. I thought there was a... I know it's in code. I've seen emo. There we go. Move type. There we go. Thank you. Yep, there it is. I knew there was one. Also, I realized, see, you can hit escape and get back to the code editor in Visual Studio, but because my mouse is hovering over where the Solution Explorer is, that actually doesn't move away until I move the mouse, which I kind of get, but kind of annoying. All right, so I'm going to need an action, and I'm not sure if this needs to be a func yet. No. Action of execution engine actions. Do I want to call it a method, or I don't want to call it an action because then it is an action. Let's just call it code for now because it's literally what the code's going to be. I think there are some refactorings that say, give me a read-only property. Oh, it's automatically read-only by default. Yay, that's exactly what I want. Yes, we'll do that. Yes, we'll do that. And should we make them public? Yeah, because I'm going to need to find it so that I can actually tell it to go execute. Okay, that is correct. I'm playing with, should I do... see, this would be a nice little refactoring thing to say, not extract a method, but make that like a tuple assignment, which is what I'll show you right now. Equals identifier count and code. And I think I got my editor config in place, so yes, it's telling me do that. Now the only thing with this is I do have to do this, throw new argument, null exception, name of code. And if you had a lot of things that were null, or could possibly be null, then this could be a problem because now you have to start putting in for every assignment in the tuple. for something like this, it's not too bad. And with C# 8 with non-nullable reference types, I think, hold on, gotta make sure, do I have my power in? Yes, I do have my power in. Yes, I do. Okay. For non-nullable types in C# 8, a lot of these will actually go away because if you compile so that, what are you barking at? That. Oh, I need one more. Okay, it was barking right. Because everything will be non-null by default, we flip the switch, the compiler switch, then a lot of these go away because I'm saying that can't be null, or it should not be null. And so if I understand this right, it should basically be telling me in the compiler, hey, this is okay. I don't have to worry about it not being null because I'm assuming it's null. I would actually have to say a question mark there on the type definition or the type name. I'd actually have to say that here, which doesn't actually work right now. That should actually throw, yeah, there we go. And then a lot of these go away because there's no reason to even check for it anymore, which kind of cool. All right, so we got our line, and you know what? To be a good boy, I'm gonna add a class, line tests, and public static classes, line tests. It's just test, right? Yeah. Public static void, create, and we'll just do 1, 2, new action, except it's not. And then up that, where I just want to pass in something that's not null. It's not going to do anything in the test. That's okay. Oh, it's taking something. Duh. But we'll just do the pseudo discard. It's not really a discard, but it's a discard. And some people I know will sometimes say, well, what should I actually write tests in my code? Say identifier is equal, is equal to 1. And then I got to assert that, come on, you can copy and paste, count is equal to 2. And I'm starting to go var count, actually, no, let's use refactorings. Let's make this introduce constant, but maybe there's a one there to say, see, that's not really what I wanted. I want to, because you can const things in a method. That's okay. Except you can't do it private. And I just want to say identifier, and then const int count to const. I can't say const here. I can say var code is equal to. Actually, I should have said promote to local. Yes. Now I'm really screwing it up. Now it doesn't know what the hell's going on. Var line. And now I need to say here identifier. I'll get back to my point. It's on my local stack. I've always said to some of my friends, like when you go to a bar and you start having conversations and you start going off topics, and it's like eventually you want to come back to the point that you were making. It should be in the same as code. There should be a program that you write that just like can keep the stack, and it could maybe listen to what you're saying, except it doesn't send it off and like do bad things. But then you could come back and go, oh, we were talking about this point. So some like little artificial intelligence thing would know the topics that you're trying, or you would just say like, push the stack and then on this, and then it would just put it there, and then you could like, anyway, I'm babbling. So the point that I wanted to make though is with tests is sometimes people will say, well, you really don't need to test everything, or should I just test properties or what? I'm always of the mindset that you should, if you have code in your system, there should be tests around it. And somebody might go, well, that's stupid. Why are you putting tests around the read-only property getters? You know, they shouldn't do anything. And I'd be like, you're absolutely right. But now I have code around getting the value. And if that would ever change in the future, even though right now it's simplistic, I don't know that that might always be the case. Maybe, maybe not. So because I have this here, I've got coverage. And I should actually make these my counts there. Okay. Now I also want to do a test that makes sure that if I do public static create when code is null, and this one I could get rid of that and say assert that, and we're going to say new line, and I'm not, you know, here I don't care. I can say default. I know that these are okay, and I'm going to explicitly say null here. Okay. Assert that that throws, I think, type of argument null exception. Boom. And now I've got tests around that kind of behavior as well, and they both pass. Cool. Okay, so that's my line. I'm going to need to do something that, well, you know, this brings up the point that if I make this immutable and I get the code and I say execute it, I don't have See, the thing I've got in my head right now is if I make this immutable, if the engine picks this line and says execute it, then it just executes it, but I won't decrease the count on the line. I won't give back a new instance of the line. Somebody could just call that arbitrarily, and I don't really know what that means. So this is state that I got to keep track of, but I'd like a method that maybe would say, you know, execute this line. And this is also something that I was debating in my head, which is the engine has to keep track of, is it the engine's responsibility to keep track of the state of, you know, the line counts and everything? And I think it should. I think it should. Because then it can tell it to decrease by so many. And a line of code in one line may actually decrease or increase the number of line counts on another line. And so you're going to have to say, well, this line now has to, you know, up its count. And so you have to have a way to say, you know, alter line count or something like that, alter count. And that would return a new line. But the execution of the line, the engine has to keep track of, well, if you executed it, then during, you know, did you ever call, that's the thing I thought about, is that if you ever called a defer or an again, such that that would mean that the line stays in, it doesn't change its count, then you keep that there. I'm babbling a little bit. I'm just debating now, does executing the code here, does that do anything to the state of the line? It may or may not, but I don't know if it's actually the termination of the line itself to say you need to decrease my count or you need to increase it. You know, when you call if I looked at the, I don't have it up here, but if I looked at the site that talks about what is deferred to, you know what? Let's go to my videos, and where is it? FreeCodeFriday content. There should be a WSharp in here. I thought there was. Oh, it's maybe up the full. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Documentation in PowerPoint. Move that over here. No reason for you guys to be looking at this. Not that there's anything secret in here. let's click on that bad boy. All right, so the defer takes a Boolean argument. The argument is true. The statement is deferred. The remainder of the statement is not executed. And the line number of the defer statement remains on the to-do list. If the argument is false, the statement is executed and the line is removed from the to-do list as normal. Because every time you execute a line of code from whatever, you should always remove it. The fact that you call defer means that you're not going to be removed. So that's making me feel like the engine should be responsible for making the decision of if you call like defer or again, forgets deprecated, we're not going to care about that, then it's not your responsibility. So just arbitrary running a line of code doesn't do anything to the line itself. Now, if you need to update your count, there has to be a way, though, to allow this to be done. So I do think I'm going to need a public line update count that takes a ulong, the delta. Okay. And what this will do is say if the delta is greater than the current count, then just make delta equal to this stat count. Because you're going to make it 0 anyway, and you can't minus it. We don't have overflow here, or underflow, or whatever it would be called. So what we will do here is say return a new line that's based on my current identifier. It's based on this stat count minus delta and this stat code. No code. I think that makes sense. Could I do that in one line? Could I say, I should be able to do this in one line, right? Delta, yeah, if delta is greater than this dot count, then just put in a 0, else do that. That goes away. And now let's expression body that. There, okay. I like that. Let's get a test around it. All right. Test update count var line is equal to new I don't usually do this, but I'm trying to do that here because I think it's the right thing to do. And then what I want to say is var new line is equal to line.update the count. And this is going to say is, we're going to have const int delta, which we're just going to say is a 1. Okay. Delta. Now what I should be able to say is, let's put the asserts in here. The assert that the new line identifier is equal to that shouldn't change. The new line's count is equal to actually 1, and new line. And then we want to have one here. You know what I could do is parameterize the test. Because I have two cases here. One is if you overflow, if you go beyond what the count is. I don't remember how to do that in NUnit. And I know in XUnit it's called a theory. Parameter, that's what it was, actually parameterized tests. Inline. The test case. Yes, that's what I want. I don't need the... Okay, so let's try that. Let's say test case. And what I want to be passing in here is those should not be ints. Those are U longs. It doesn't, I mean, obviously it works, but that's not technically correct. What I want to pass in here is a U long of a identifier. Excuse me. A U long of a count. A U long of a delta. And then, oh, but the code doesn't matter here. We don't need to, because you couldn't parameterize in an attribute, you couldn't parameterize an action. But I could say here, wasn't there like an expected? Yeah, expected result. Oh, but no, I'm being an idiot. U long expected result. Okay, and so now what I want to do is pass in 1, a count of 2, delta of 1, and then the expected result is a 1. There. And now if I said that your identifier is a 1, your count is 2, your delta is a 3, and the expected should be 0. So now I don't need this, this, and this. I still need that. The new line is equal to identifier. The count should be equal to what my expected result should be. And we got a problem. Method requires 4 arguments, but test case attribute only supplied 3. By using the named. Oh, it's by what's returned. I'm not sure I like that. I like it. My gut's telling me I like this instead. And both failed. Object of type system int32. Oh, it doesn't know. Oh, crap. What is the unsigned? That's an unsigned integer. There's no O. I can't remember. Oh, I was right. Haha. Sometimes you guess, and you guess correctly. Boom. All right, cool. 1ol, 2ol, that looks kind of ugly, but U long min value. It's not wrong. It's technically correct. It's technically correct. Okay. So now we have the ability for somebody to say, hey, update my count to that. We stay, the identifier will never change. The code will never change, but your count could change. Cool. That's what I wanted. Okay. I do know that on the interface, we're probably going to have something like a bool, a defer, and then a U-long line identifier, or do we always know it's an identifier? I think it's identifier. Okay. What else is there? There's like something else. Yeah, but most standard mathematical, I'm not really going to worry about that because I don't think, like print is something we'll have to do, but these really don't do much. We'll get to that point eventually. And you know, n takes an integer argument, returns the number of times that the line number is in the current to-do list. So we want a U long of n of a U long of an identifier. And we want a U. A U takes an integer argument, returns a string containing the Unicode character with that Unicode number. So it basically wants to take an integer argument and returns a string containing a Unicode character. I'm assuming that means if you pass in, because if I look at 99 bells, it'll be right in the wall. Well, no, n, there's a number of times. I don't even see U in any of these. Oh, but that's not the... That's just any arbitrary number. That feels really weird to have. I mean, I guess to be complete, we should have a u long number. Now, it takes an integer argument. This is basically saying, and it's not a u, it's a string. And this is basically just saying a long. This could be a plus or a minus. We don't necessarily have the restriction here. So, and this is where default interface members would be awesome, because I could basically, defer is a little bit more involved, n is more involved, but u is, I don't need the execution engine to actually define this. I just need it to return like basically toString on that. That's all it needs to do. So there you go. All right, so we also need now a execution engine. I was going to call this execution context, but then there was a context, so public static, no, not static, sealed. And really, does this need to be seen? Yeah, it does. It does. Okay. But it also implements execution engine actions. We'll implement it. We'll come back to you in a second. And this, I can actually say number toString. Simple. All right. This needs to take an immutable list of lines, right? So public execution engine, immutable list of a line, lines. Okay, and then you are smart enough to do that, good. We want you to create a field. Nobody should be able to see this out of this. I think that's correct, and then that goes like that. And I don't, yeah, and then we're going to say lines, throw new argument, no exception, name of lines. Cool. Let's get some tests already in place. Well, it's not going to work. Well, it will, because we can't call these methods yet. So we got that going for us. But let's do that. Let's just get some, well, what the hell did I just, okay. Add, wait, no. 10, add class tests. Public. Oh, damn it. I just realized I was going to make a branch before I started this, and I'm right to master. So I'm a bad boy. Public static void create. So here we need var lines equals new immutable list of line. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think you can just say, yeah, you gotta either pass in something, or you can like make a builder. Either do, yeah, you can't take a constructor. Let's just say, can you say create? Empty. Well, that's actually kind of what I want, but this is also something empty set with the default sort comparer. Well, it kind of is what I want. The thing that's interesting though is that I thought, do you ever want to pass in an empty set? So not only do you want to say this, this is why I think the logic is a little bit trickier. You don't want to pass in an immutable list of lines. That's no. You don't want to pass in an immutable list of lines. That's empty. And you don't want to pass in an immutable list of lines where one of the lines is null. None of that would make sense. So I don't think I can be as cute here as I want. Okay. I have to say if lines equals null, then we'll eventually come back to you later. Do that. Else if lines.count equals 0, argument exception because it's not null anymore. And you're like, yes, I know that. That must pass in at least one line. Name of line. Z. Now this is where it gets a little trickier because theoretically I could say I have 10 lines in and the second and the fifth one are null. So if I stop at the second one, then that's not correct. I don't want to just tell somebody, it's like giving people validation that you did the first line, or that you found the first problem, and so you stop and you say, fix this. And then they go fix this, they say submit. Well, now there's got this problem, fix it. It's like, why didn't you just tell me all these right away so I could fix all of them at once, and then, I got a better chance of it working. So what I'd like here is like an execution engine exception. But I am at the 30-minute mark, so I'm going to stop for this video for now. And what I'm going to do in the next one, I'm just going to record after this, but in my next one, I'm going to continue on. We're going to build a custom exception for execution engine for this case so we can capture all the possibilities of any null lines. We're going to implement the engine itself. We'll keep moving on, and we'll see where we get to. So, thanks for watching. Leave any comments or questions down below. See you next time.